The defending European champions just put 5 past us in Paris. From looking like we were PSG's equal for over an hour to a 20-minute collapse that felt like a total head loss. In this video, we are breaking down everything we learned from the night of extremes. From Liam Rosenior failed goalkeeping gamble to our defense being found at the crime scene yet again. But I'm telling you why, and despite the scoreline, all hope is not lost for the second leg. But before we dive into this video, if you are new here, welcome to the channel. But if you have been following me for a while, you know the drills. Help your boy get to that 10k subscriber mark. Let's dive into it. If I'm going to be honest with you, that 5-2 scoreline, it stinks. It burns. We look at that result on the screen and it looks like a demolition. It looks like we didn't belong on the same pitch as the European champions. But if you are looking at this with a blue tinted glass and honestly a little bit of tactical common sense, the night wasn't a total disaster that the headline are going to suggest this morning. And I need to be real for a second. For 70 minutes we are toe to toe with PSG. We went to the Parc de France, the home of the holder, and we didn't blink. Every time they punch, we punched back. At 2-2, I was sitting here thinking, we actually got these guys. We look composed, we look dangerous, and we look like a team that finally found its spine in Europe. But then the old Chelsea showed up, the biggest enemy version of us. That 20 minutes collapse wasn't because PSG outclassed us. It was because we handed them key to the house and told them to help themselves. Which leads me directly into the first thing we learned from this disastrous and confusing night in Paris. The deception of the scoreline. In football, there is dominance and there is damage. I'm looking at the tape, I'm looking at the flow of that match, and I'm telling you, we arguably had more of the former, and we suffered every single ounce of the latter. For 60 minutes, our build-up wasn't just good, it was superior. The transition through the midfield were fluid, we are breaking lines. The XG battle was neck on neck, but PSG weren't interested in a battle. They operated with a clinical, cold-blooded, one-chance, one-goal mentality that turned a competitive match into a historical outlier. Look at this stat from Optajo that perfectly illustrates the gravity of what happened. Chelsea conceded 5 goals in a UEFA Champions League match for the second time, after a 5-1 defeat to Barcelona in April 2000. So what? It's been over 2 decades we have seen a defensive collapse like this on an European stage. It's painful because the results snap the legacy we are building. Tonight's results end Chelsea's run of 6 consecutive wins against French side in UEFA competitive fixtures. It's also just their 4th defeat in their last 22 UEFA games. 17 wins and 1 draw. If you only saw that 4-2 flashing on your phone this morning, you'd think we got absolutely destroyed. You think they outclassed us from minute 1, but that is lazy analysis. I refuse to let the scoreline hide what actually happened on the pitch. We finished this night with 42% ball possession, 4 big chances, 9 shots. An XG of PSG 0.98 to Chelsea 1.73. With the XG numbers again, we created nearly double of quality chances that they did for long spells. We controlled the phases, we moved the ball with intent, and we forced them back. The real issue wasn't lack of dominance, it was a total lack of efficiency. PSG were ruthless, we weren't. We played the beautiful football, they played the winning football. Even Liam Rosenior had to address the sheer whiplash of that performance. For much of the game, I'm really happy with our performance. The last 20 minutes are crazy, that's on me. That's the reality of elite Champions League football. They punished every single mistake we made, while we stood out there wasting our moments. When you give a team with the firepower of PSG the kind of openings, the scoreboard starts to look ugly very quickly. But I have to give flowers where it's due, because despite the chaos, their individual performance that proved we belong at this level. Specifically, Malo Gusto. He was immense for the most part of the game, grabbing the equalizer to keep us in the fight when the pressure was mounting. We finished with a 7.5 rating, 1 goal, 7 defensive contributions, 2 tackles, 3 interceptions, 6 recoveries, 7 ground duel won, 1 area duel won, 1 last man tackle, 0 time dribbled pass. It was a warrior out there. To go through a game where your team was scored 5 times, and yet you weren't dribbled past once, and you are winning last man tackles, that shows you the level he's playing at. It made the result even harder to swallow because we had individual brilliance. We had the tactical control, but we lacked the killer instinct to put the game to bed before the madness started. And that leads me directly into the second thing we learned. The Liam Rosenior failed gamble. We can talk about the tactics and XG all day, but let's not dance around it. The goalkeeping was a big issue. I'm looking at the selection and I have to say, Liam Rosenier's decision to start Filip Jörgensen over Robert Sanchez tonight was a gamble that turned into a total disaster. And I want to back our players, I really do. But the numbers from Jörgensen's performance are haunting. He finished with a 4.5 rating, 3 saves, minus 3.22 goals prevented, 1 successful run out, 1 error leading to goal. That minus 2.22 goals prevented stat is the one that kills me. That means based on the quality of shots he faced, a standard goalkeeper saved at least 3 of those. Instead, they ended up in the back of our nets. While Jörgensen made some spectacular saves to keep us in the hunt, his distribution error for Vitinha's goal changed the entire momentum of the tie. It's a harsh, brutal lesson, but at this level, one keeper calamity is all it takes to turn a 2-2 fighting draw into an insurmountable mountain to climb. Just look at how clinical PSG were once they smelled blood and realized that ours was in the water. Optajo puts it best. The last 4 shots considered by Chelsea tonight. 40 minutes Dembele goal, 74 minutes Vitinha goal, 86 minutes Kvaratskhelia goal, 90 plus 4 minutes Kvaratskhelia goals. 4 shots, 4 goals, no resistance. We essentially had holes where we needed work. To his credit, Liam Rosenior didn't hide it from its post-match. Liam Rosenior and Jörgensen, credit to him, he held his hand up in the dressing room. Everyone makes mistake. Sometimes they are more costly than the other times. This is one of those moments. But moments define season. And it's not only fans feeling this way. Jamie Carragher had this to say, and I find it hard to disagree with a single word he said. They can't go any further until they sort the goalkeeping position out. Tactically, they were fantastic tonight. They were let down by mistake. That's the tragedy of it. We were actually fantastic. But a goalkeeper's primary job in a hostile away leg is to act as an anchor for the entire ship. When the goalkeeper looks shaky, the defenders stop stepping up. They start dropping deep to cover for him because they don't trust the man behind them. The lack of trust inadvertently created the gaps that players like Kvaratskhelia and Ousmane Dembele thrives on. When you go to Paris in the Champions League, you need a keeper who controls the box, save the expected goals, and keep the team calm. Instead, we considered goals that completely killed our momentum. At this level, 1 poor goal swings a game, 2 poor goals swings an entire tie. And if you are being honest with each other, this haven't just been one night. The goalkeeper situation at Chelsea has been shaky for a while now. It's been a revolving door of what ifs and maybes. Until that position is solved and truly solved, we always keep going to have nights like this, where the outfield player do the work and the scoreline tells a different story. Which brings us to the third thing we learned, and perhaps the most damning lesson of tonight: poor defensive structure. Let me be incredibly clear here. PSG's biggest weapon wasn't a complex tactical masterclass. It wasn't some revolutionary new way of playing football. It was pure unadulterated speed in transition. When we are facing players like Ousmane Dembele, Bradley Barcola, Kvaratskhelia, we are playing with fire every single time you lose the ball. And tonight, we didn't just play with fire. We poured gasoline on ourselves. They absolutely punished the spaces behind our defense. Every time we pushed up to attack, PSG looked like they could score in seconds. It was a terrifying watch. I have to say it. The pairing of Chalobah and Fofana was a disaster. The fact that these two are currently our best available defenders is quite frankly a disgrace for a club of this stature. Look at the output from our centre-back pairing on a night where we needed them to be giants. Chalobah finished with a 5.2 rating, 2 defensive contribution, 1 interception, 1 clearance, 4 recoveries. Fofana finished with a 5.5 rating, 6 defensive contribution, 2 interception, 3 clearance, 1 shot block, 1 recovery, 2 ground duel won. These numbers aren't just low, they are non-existent for a Champions League knockout game. And it's a recurring issue. Every time we have dropped points, every time we have lost or drawn game, we should be winning. Our defense is all over the shop. PSG didn't need a complex tactical overload to beat us. They simply used the 100-meter sprint method. The way we positioned our defenders while the rest of the team is actually attacking was completely non-existent. By committing our fullbacks so high to support Pedro Neto and Copama, we left a green pasture for Bracola and Dembele to gallop into. We essentially invited them to destroy us. Then you have the Kvaratskhelia problem. Playing against a player with Kvaratskhelia quality requires a double marking system. You need a plan. But because we were chasing the game, he was constantly left 1v1 against an isolated panic defender. At this level, this isn't just a mistake. It's a tactical suicide. That's the brutal reality of modern Champions League football. If your rest defense isn't perfect, you get ripped apart. We learned that the hard way in Paris. We were naive, we were disorganized, and we paid the ultimate price for it. Which leads us to the fourth thing we learned. Respect Enzo Fernández. But listen, I can sit here and just tear into the mistakes without giving credit where it's due. We need to talk about Enzo Fernández because he was a titan in that midfield. While the world around him was collapsing, Enzo ran the show. His goal, assisted by absolute electric Pedro Neto run, was pure, unadulterated class. He wasn't just good for a Chelsea player, he was one of the best players on the pitch. He finished with a 7.4 rating, 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 big chances created, 2 key passes, 2 shots, 1 on target. Think about the magnitude of that performance for a second. We are talking about a world-class talent hitting a new milestone on the biggest stage possible. According to Squawka, Enzo Fernández has both scored and assisted in a Champions League game for the first time, and he done it against the defending champion at Parc de France. In a match where there weren't much positive to talk about, Enzo Fernández was the lighthouse in the storm. The link-up play between Enzo, Neto and Copama, that was the silver lining. It's proved to me that our attack is officially Champions League elite. We can go anywhere and score goals. We can cut open the best team in the world. Even though the defense had that late game lapses, the engine room and the attack proved that we belong to the top side of the table. And I have to mention my captain. Reece James was another massive positive. He showed exactly why his level was ahead of almost everyone in this squad. He was locked in, providing both the creative spark and the defensive grit we were desperately looking for. He finished with a 7.0 rating, 2 big chances created, 3 key passes, 1 accurate cross, 95% accurate passes, 2 defensive contributions, 2 tackles won, 6 recoveries, 5 ground duels won, 1 area duel won. That 95% pass accuracy in a high pressured environment like Paris, that's world class. He was creating, he was tackling, and he was winning his duels. Seeing him and Enzo perform at this level is what makes the final results harder to swallow, because you feel we are wasting A+ individual performance on D- collective errors. We have the stars, we have the attacking fluidity. Now we need the whole team to catch up to the standards these two are setting. Which brings me to the last and final thing we learned. It's not over. A 3-goal deficit is massive, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's not. But European nights at Stamford Bridge are built on exactly this kind of drama. We have seen the impossible happen under the lights, and honestly, the players feel it too. Malo Gusto had this to say after the match. The main word now will be belief. We have to believe at home. We know we have a chance to go through. Malo Gusto is spot on. Belief is the only currency we have left, and we need to spend every single cent of it. In the old format with away goals counting for double, you would probably need a literal miracle. But now the away goal rules being gone changes the mass. A 3-0 win at the bridge, while incredibly difficult, doesn't just get us close, it simply reset the clock. It's wiped the slate clean. We know the threats. With Kvaratskhelia on absolutely heater right now, we need to be perfect defensively. We can't have holes in the net or gap in the backline. But look at what we did in Paris. We carved them open for our 2 goals. We proved we can get through them. We believe that the dressing room should still be there, because the blueprint for scoring is already drawn. To overturn this, our defense simply doesn't need to be world class or produce something superhuman. It just needs to be boring. That's it. No more keeper handing out gifts. No more 100-meter sprints for their wingers. If we can stop the silly goals and keep the clean sheet for the first 45 minutes, the collective gravity of Stamford Bridge usually does the rest. When the stadium starts shaking, and the pressure mounts. Even European champions can crumble. It's 5-2 and it's hot, but it's only half time in this style. And with that said, that's the end of the video, my friends. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. It go be.